Board meeting of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and its component units is now being called to order. Today's in-person meeting is also being held virtually via teleconference with the proceedings live streamed from the Port Authority's website. On May 18th, the Committees on Finance and Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management met jointly in executive. Earlier today, the Committees on Finance and Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset met separately in executive. The reports will be filed with the official minutes of today's board meeting. The commissioners also met in executive earlier today to discuss matters related to the purchase, sale, or lease of real property where disclosure would affect the value thereof or the public interest, to discuss and act upon matters involving ongoing negotiations or reviews of contracts or proposals, and to discuss and act upon matters related to proposed, pending, or current litigation or administrative proceedings. Before we hear from our executive director, we have a short in-house video that has been produced by our folks, which basically details some of the site visits that we had taken to Port Authority facilities, and it also has a summary of the annual State of the Port Authority event, which was focusing on recognizing the accomplishments of our 8,000 dedicated employees. So David Compton, are you here? First of all, thank you very much, David, for all the hard work that you've done. Assuming there's no glitches here, we want to thank you. Every time we ask you to put a video, whether it's the tribute to Huntley or others, you folks in your department are just really, really amazing. Thank you. Let's cue it up. Good morning, everyone. 3 years, long time. Long time to not see these wonderful faces. And I will tell you, coming in today, I was trying to say to myself, what message do we have for our employees? And when I was having coffee with some of our employees, I had some interesting conversations. First of all, where's Jennifer from Building 1 in Newark? Jennifer. You said to me, what's the purpose of being here today? What did you say? Recognition. Jennifer's right, we're here for recognition. Recognition of the employees that have gotten it done for the last year, 2 years, 3 years. When we say recognition, I have to start at the top. My partner, Rick Cotton, came here in August of 17. From that very moment, you saw the trajectory of the Port Authority change. Now, I haven't seen these wonderful faces, for the most part, in 3 years, and I couldn't be more overjoyed to see you here today. And if I could take the time out every day to call you up, to shake your hand, to say thank you for all that you've done, yesterday, last month, last year, I would do that. That's what we want to do for you. We have seen what this dedication of the employee has done, has moved this industry, has moved this region, has defined transportation. Look what's happening at our assets. It is time to be proud to be a Port Authority employee. Who's proud to be a Port Authority employee? Who's proud to be a Port Authority employee? And the best is yet to come. You look back what has gone on in the worst of times, in the hardest of times, the most difficult of times, and you've gotten it done. You've gotten it done.
So it's really a pleasure to be here. It's great to see everybody in person. I would actually say that the most frequent remark that I heard out in the foyer was how wonderful people felt about actually seeing each other in person. And it has been a long COVID 3 years. What this agency has accomplished, in my view, is really nothing short of extraordinary. Words are nice, but it's really what we accomplish together, and the people who do, the people who make things happen, are the employees at every level of the Port Authority. It is recognizing the extraordinary actions, day-to-day dedication, hard work, round the clock if necessary, of the employees. When you think about what we said about our priorities and what has gone on in terms of safety and security, our capital plan execution, our customer experience focus, something that I think has imbued the organization, our operational excellence focus, including financial performance, our sustainability efforts, our employer choice efforts, and how we do it. Integrity above all, diversity and inclusion, best practices, world-class aspirations, which now people can see, relying on 21st century technology, collegiality, working as teams across the organization, and speed. I hope all of you see in the way the agency performs those priorities and those values, and I think we should all be proud of it. The state of the Port Authority is strong. The state of the Port Authority is good. As the chairman said, what is past is prologue. It's a platform on which to build, and I look forward to working with everyone in moving up that curve. And once again, I would just say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Rick, before you start your executive report, your monthly report, Rick, since we've been at this, we have always made it a priority to go to the facilities to meet the employees. I think it's one of those most special connective things we can do. And I know we're going to plan to do more this summer, and to have the annual state of the port. I know we had COVID, we couldn't do it for a couple of years. It is just such a moment of, you heard the employees, such a moment of energy, and to see and talk and get the feedback from the employees. There's nothing that can substitute that, Rick, because we can't go face to face with 8,000 employees. But when we go out to the facilities in their environment, they'll tell us what's right, what's wrong, how we can help them, some of the problems that we don't that doesn't trickle up to the top. Really cool, Rick, and I think we're going to continue that.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. We start these meetings by saying thank you to the Port Authority employees. We close our weekly broadcast. Our additional thank you to the employees, and there's really no substitute for getting out to the facilities, both to see how they're operating, strengths, weaknesses, but also to talk to the people who work there, and that's the source of enormous amount of valued advice and connected tissue.
Great, thank you. Your executive report, Rick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be brief this month. Want to comment and focus primarily on the volumes that we're expecting in terms of the coming weekend, but really across the agency. As we move through the spring, volumes at our airports and bridges and tunnels continue to edge up. Newark and LaGuardia are hitting new record travelers each month. So we are not only past the COVID period, but we are now hitting new intensity every single month. For the month of April, passenger volumes at our 3 airports in total and vehicular traffic at our crossings were either at 29 values or indeed at the airport substantially above them. At our seaport, cargo moved was below the extraordinary levels that we saw in 21 and 22, but still 7% above April 2019. Say a little bit more in terms of the airports. As we approach the Memorial Day weekend, we project volumes at our airports during this peak travel period will continue to grow very substantially above 2019 levels, particularly at Newark and at LaGuardia. And those will be new records. 2019 levels were themselves records, and we're now surpassing them. Across our 4 commercial airports, 2.1 million passengers over the Memorial Day weekend are expected to be served, up 2% from 2019, and LaGuardia and Newark are expected to be up 9% and 8% respectively from 2019, which is really an extraordinary growth. To say a few more words about JFK, which is under the construction knife, the construction pace is intensifying very, very dramatically. As we approach the summer months, the construction program has intensified following the groundbreakings on the 2 largest terminal projects, which occurred late last year and early this year. At Terminal 1, the steel erection has begun for the terminal building, a big step forward, and there are also upcoming roadway changes and other important milestones at the Terminal 1 site. At Terminal 6, foundation work is well underway and roadway bridge construction will start this month. This rapid construction progress on our $19 billion investment program at JFK. But traffic management will be a key challenge. Presently, strong traffic management plans are being put into effect to handle this expected traffic during construction. But we continue to offer JFK airport travelers and really all travelers to our airports to consider mass transit for travel to and from the airport and to leave extra time when planning a trip that will take you to the airport over this coming intense travel period. I want to make one quick comment on our focus somewhat behind the scenes on cybersecurity. We have instituted multiple both outside consultations and intense inner look at our operations to be sure that we have a very strong cybersecurity posture. And just last week, the Port Authority hosted both New York State and federal agencies for a tour of some of the Port Authority's facilities to discuss where we are on our cybersecurity program. And our state and local partners, including consultation with the relevant New Jersey agencies, have really produced important suggestions and important initiatives which we are proceeding with. Finally, I just want to take note of really 3 personnel updates for the board. Since our April board meeting, Jim Heitman has been named Chief Operating Officer, bringing with him 37 years at the Port Authority and with a wealth of experience, including his time as Director of Aviation Development. We are also very proud that the Port Authority General Counsel, now previous General Counsel, Michael Farbiarge, was confirmed as a U.S. District Judge for the District of New Jersey. Amy Fisher, who has served the Port Authority since 2017 with great distinction as Deputy General Counsel and Director of Legal Affairs, has been named Acting General Counsel. And finally, want to take note that in late April, the Port Authority welcomed Chris Diamond to his new role as Director of Sustainability. Chris brings more than 20 years of public and private sector experience and will continue the Office of Sustainability's mission to lead the effort to become a net zero agency by 2050. With that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Rick. With regard to our former counsel, Michael Farbiage, I was fortunate enough to actually see his courtroom. He's situated in Newark. Uh, Very fortunate. My son got sworn in last week, and Judge Farbiage and some others were in the courtroom when he got sworn in, and I got to visit the judge. And it's very difficult to say judge to him. As you walk into his, he is over the moon. He misses us, and I told him we're going to honor him in June, and with an appropriate, signing of various things and recognizing his commitment and hard work. And I think, Rick, I don't think there's anybody that we relied upon more than Michael over the last 6 years. And I think we have to show that bit of gratitude, what the agency owes him and his commitment. And that's coming up in June. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It will be a wonderful opportunity to celebrate his contributions.
All right, any questions on the executive director's report? All right, then at this time we have a presentation by our Chief Development Officer, Derek Utter, who will discuss the item concerning the development of the World Trade Center Tower 5 site to be considered for the board later today. Prior to the start of the presentation, I'll ask the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals.
Derek?
Great, thank you, Chairman. You have the slides here. Okay, great. Thank you. So I just want to start off with a little bit of background. So this topic has some history going back to 2019. At that time, you may recall, the Port Authority and Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, LMDC, jointly issued an RFP, a request for proposals, soliciting both commercial and residential proposals in a competitive procurement. And so the map you look at the right shows you the World Trade Center site, and just at the southern most point, you'll see Site 5 in red. That is a site that today is a area where there's some parking. There's no building there, and that's the site that we ran an RFP to identify a developer to build a new tower on. Through this competitive RFP, we received 5 proposals. A joint selection committee comprised of a staff level group between the city, state, LMDC, and Port Authority recommended a winner. And after extensive briefing on terms with the board, the Port Authority board, the board approved the designation of this team based on the terms that were provided in the proposal. So this page just shows a little bit of more detail on what those terms were. Just again to point out, these terms, with one small exception, I'll describe that on the next page, have not changed. These are the same terms that were provided, that the board reviewed and affirmed in February of 2021. The development team, led by Brookfield and Silverstein, along with 2 partners with extensive expertise in affordable housing, Omni and DeBar Development, are the development team. The program highlights include a residential mixed-use building of about 1.5 million square feet, which equates to a little over 1,000 apartments. So this is a very large rental apartment building. At the time, and I will discuss this in a second, it allowed for a minimum of 25% permanently affordable units. I put emphasis on the permanent because that is a key feature here. These apartments are not limited by time, which is a typical way that a lot of affordable housing is built, and these will maintain the affordable status for the life of the building. So the transaction structure is a 99-year lease, meaning that the developers do not take title of the fee interest of the property. That continues to be held, in this case, by ESD. The revenue to the Port Authority would be 21% of cash flow before debt service, or $12.5 million per year, growing with 2% annual escalations, so the greater of those two. In terms of the one item that did change, this relates to the affordable housing component. There was extensive discussion of this in the public board meetings with the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation on Tuesday, May 16th, just about a little over a week ago, and then again on Monday, May 22nd at the ESD board earlier this week. What changed is we increased the number of affordable units from 25% to 30% of the building. That results in 360, again, permanently affordable units based on an estimated building size of 1,200 units. This would be the largest block of affordable units built in Lower Manhattan in recent history. The eligibility level specified based on with reference to the area media income, on average 85% of area media income, and just for context, this would be individuals on average which have incomes of $80,000 for an individual or $113,000 for a family of four. Importantly, a third of the units would be earmarked for individuals with lower incomes, so 120 of the units would be at 60% of area media income, which equates to $56,000 for an individual and $80,000 for a family of four. In addition, if additional subsidy, which is necessary to allow for the affordable units, is identified by April of 2024, these affordability levels and number of apartments could be increased. Importantly, the economic impact of this project would be to generate almost $2 billion of economic impact to the region, over 5,000 construction job years, and over 5,000 indirect job years. Labor income also about $700 to $800 million. We would have prevailing wage for construction workers, and there is a commitment by the developers to adhere to our MWBE contracting goals to allow for 30% to minority and women-owned businesses, 20% of that to minority and 10% to women-owned businesses, and a 6% service-disabled veteran-owned business goal. So our recommendation is that the board reaffirm the terms that were previously looked at over 2 years ago, and to approve the lease transaction with the Brookfield Silverstein team for development of the site. In terms of what happens after today, the next step is that there will be a final approval from the New York State Public Authorities Control Board this summer. So with that, I'll conclude my comments. Take any questions.
Great, thank you very much, Derek. Any commissioners have any questions for Derek? All right, seeing none, we will defer voting on this action until after the speaker's program. Thank you, Derek.
Thanks.
We will now provide an opportunity for members of the public to comment on the Port Authority matters. This public comment period, which may be limited to 30 minutes in total, provides an opportunity for members of the public to present their views directly to the board, but does not provide for a dialogue. Members of the public wishing to discuss specific issues, we ask you to reach out to our staff, and we will put you in contact with the appropriate department. Speakers are asked to comply with a fixed time limit of 3 minutes. All right, so we have a total of 19, now 18 speakers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have submitted letters. Jim?
That's correct.
Yeah, you just want to read off those 5 and their topic?
Sure thing. Moses Gates, Regional Plan Association, 5 World Trade Center Development. Carol Lamberg, 100% affordable 5 World Trade Center. Registered for, she submitted a statement on 5 World Trade Center. Chris Adair on late night path service and the exclusive bus lane at the Lincoln Tunnel. Mariama James from Community Board 1 on 5 World Trade Center. And Lucian Reynolds, Manhattan Community Board 1 on 5 World Trade Center.
Right. And we have Emily Lung, who is submitting a letter, and now she's going to speak.
That is correct.
All right. Emily?
Is this working?
Yes.
Okay. I believe we also submitted it as a written comment.
Okay. That'll be attached to the record.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Lang. I'm here today speaking on behalf of State Senator Brian Kavanaugh, who represents the 5 World Trade Center site. Over the course of the past 2 years, elected officials, Community Board 1, and community advocates have engaged in numerous discussions with your agency, LMDC, and ESD, and urged you to find a path to providing more affordability in the proposed building for 5 World Trade Center, which is located in a community that has lost affordable housing at a particularly high rate for decades. All of the elected officials, the board, and the community advocates have consistently emphasized that additional affordability with clearly identified sources of funding to support it is a prerequisite to supporting the project. The decision by your agency to unilaterally proceed to seek formal public approvals at this time comes as a surprise to us and to many others who have been involved in these discussions on behalf of the community, and undermines the basis for those discussions. We want to reiterate that we are unanimous in our opposition to moving forward with the public approvals for the proposed project and related real estate transactions at World Trade Center Site 5 at this time. 5 World Trade Center is publicly owned land and a tremendous opportunity to build sorely needed large-scale affordable housing downtown. We strongly believe that public agencies that control a major development site in a community where affordable housing is so scarce would work to provide greater levels of affordability than deals that are typically done on private development sites. And we urge the Port Authority, ESD, and LMDC to continue to work with the state and the city, the developers, the elected officials, and the community to identify additional funding sources before moving forward. Again, we strongly urge you to pause and reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Yvonne Garrett Patterson? Is Yvonne here? No? Okay. All right, Stephen Keselowski? Stephen?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm returning to you here again today about a subject mentioned in the last meeting, which was sexual harassment, hostile work environment at the Harrison Car Maintenance Facility. I want to apprise you of the situation. There was a hearing with management, and the current foreman was found at fault for committed acts. However, was permitted to return to work in the same department, supervising the same employees, with what equates to a slap on the wrist for what has occurred. The Port Authority says they have zero tolerance for such behavior, and EEO has not even finalized their investigation into this matter, and yet they allowed the current foreman to return to work in the same capacity. I followed the correct channels in this matter, and it appears my efforts have been fruitless. Management stated the current foreman received proper discipline for the acts committed. I believe this was ineffectively handled from the start. Employees notice how this has transpired and are shocked and appalled at the end result. If the EEO concluded their investigation in a timely manner along with conducting proper interviews, I would not be standing before you today. As previously stated, no one should be subject to these working conditions. Thank you for your time and consideration. Please enjoy your Memorial Day, and thank a veteran for their service.
Thank you, Stephen. Murray Bowden?
Rick, I apologize for some of my inappropriate remarks in the past. I've learned new things, and I find that some of the things I criticized you for were not proper. You have been extraordinary, and your video this morning reinforces my idea that you understand the people you work with. I've been concerned about traffic lines and roads and design of roads. And I was at the MTA on Monday and a New Jersey Turnpike on Tuesday. Everyone is ignoring using correct road lines. So it's not you, it's not your office, it's something else. And why the industry refuses to use safety lines and standards that you're using designs that were designed 50 years ago, and they don't work. Today, people think differently. Signage has to be differently. So it's beyond you. It's somewhere out there that needs to be corrected, and it's a national problem. So I suggested some small changes that you might make at the airports to make it easier with the yellow on the left and white on the right, and it's never been implemented, and I cannot figure out why. I use a wheelchair now because I can stand a little bit. I went around here this morning looking at everything. It's very well designed. I just have to learn where the places are to press the button to open the doors. The cooperation of the Port Authority staff has been tremendous, and my thanks to your staff who obviously have been trained to deal with the public in a proper and correct way. This is new. It's 2 weeks old. I keep bumping into things. I'm just learning. I thank all of the people who took the time to help me and continue to help me. And your staff deserves special thanks. And I thank you for being the forward-looking person that you are. Rick, you as well. You're leading a great organization. What I saw this morning is spectacular.
Thank you, Murray. Appreciate it. Jason Anthony? Jason? Okay. Deborah Greif?
First, I want to say I enjoyed your video, and I'm very happy you're going to be building a lot of affordable housing, but truthfully, when you saw me shake my head, it's really not affordable. When you have a lot of people who are on Social Security disability or Social SSI, their income is so much lower. Also, I didn't hear one thing about accessible apartments. That is a major problem because you see very few buildings are being built truly accessible. Also, you have agencies like Office of Persons with Developmental Disabilities, Office of Mental Health and Hygiene, OASIS. These agencies need they need affordable, accessible housing. They have agencies that would be paying you money so that they can have individuals or different people with disabilities to be able to live there. So I'm glad with that. When you're building, fixing Kennedy Airport, can you please make sure there's more accessible ways to get in, but also true accessoride stops? Because when accessoride tries to bring you into an airport and everybody's blocking, it's not fair. It takes forever to get someone like myself off. I have to use the bus, the accessoride bus, because I have other disabilities that are hidden, but that's the way I have to travel. And I also hope, I was asked to do this by my son, as you know, and you know that the New York MTA is doing what they call Omni. Yes, I brought a lot of brochures because he asked me to. Yes, they made a video, and yes, I am in the video, and my nickname by everyone is Omni Woman. Why? I'm one of the testers, and it's a great way to tap. Like, here's my card, I tap it quick. My cousin who has hand tremors finally can pay without me doing it for her or my son. But what we're hoping is that the Port Authority will be participating with New York, because I'd love to see your air trains at half fare. I'd like to see it's easier to get onto PATH, half fare. When they come and show it to us, I know they've gotten on half fare, so I'm asking for the same. So I'm just asking, please also advertise what services you give for people with disabilities, because we need to know if our child in the autistic spectrum has a meltdown. I don't want them to be arrested. There's a quiet room. So please think of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Goodkind?
Good morning, men of the board. I speak in memory of my husband, Tom Goodkind, who, before he died from 9/11 cancer, advocated for nearly 2 decades to make 5 World Trade Center affordable. And I'm really shocked how the Port Authority has ignored the repeated requests of our elected officials. Our congressmen, our state assembly and senate, our councilmen have repeatedly asked you to pause this rush to approval, and a rush to approval which only has a commitment of a minimal amount of affordable units. At public meetings, the people of New York have made it overwhelmingly clear that this plan does not include enough affordable housing. And I ask you, has your agency made any serious effort to further increase the affordability at 5 World Trade? I mean, is it correct that you've signed off on numerous subsidies for developers and for commercial tenants at the World Trade Center site? But when it comes to affordability at the 5 World Trade Center site, not $1. I've read that the World Trade Center developers received billions of dollars in subsidized Liberty bonds, but to increase affordability at 5 World Trade Center, not $1? The LMTC allocated $2 billion of taxpayer money from HUD, but to increase affordability at 5 World Trade Center, not $1? Is it true that 2 large World Trade Center sites were leased for $1 a year to organizations that were able to pay salaries over $500,000 a year? But when it comes to housing families of 4 earning $50,000, because you have increased the AMI levels at 5 World Trade Center, I ask you, not $1? You've approved thousands of tons of imported white Italian marble, which is now chipping on the floor of the $4 billion Oculus. But to put a roof over the heads of New Yorkers in desperate need of housing at 5 World Trade Center, not $1. Is the unprecedented need to house people less important than subsidizing wealthy developers and high-end salaries and imported marble floors? We are in an affordable housing crisis, not a luxury housing crisis. We're asking you to pause this rush to approval. We're asking you to provide an opportunity to fund more affordable housing at 5 World Trade Center first. Because if you approve this resolution now, you're approving close to 900 units of unneeded, unwanted luxury housing, while too many New Yorkers cannot afford a roof over their head. Public land for public good. Thank you.
Aaron Sanders.
Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to submit testimony on the behalf of the Association for a Better New York. My name is Aaron Sanders, and I am the Public Policy Director at ABNY. We are pleased to learn that the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation unanimously approved this project. ABNY is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the advancement and support of New York City's people, businesses, communities. We are a 52-year-old civic organization representing community stakeholders, including corporations, nonprofits, unions, and government authorities. New York City's housing crisis is impacting the livelihoods of all New Yorkers, but particularly low and moderate income New Yorkers. The creation of 5 World Trade Center is an integral step forward in addressing the New York City's housing shortage by providing much needed quality housing for New Yorkers. The building will provide approximately 1,200 rental units, of which 30%, or approximately 360, would be permanently affordable. The development by itself would deliver 5 times the number of affordable housing produced across all of Lower Manhattan in a typical year. The affordable units are specifically reserved for low and middle income New Yorkers who earn on average 80% of the AMI, who will have access to securing housing. This opportunity will provide middle-class families with safe and affordable housing. Moreover, 5 World Trade Center will provide support to the local economy. The development is projected to create 10,000 construction jobs and 1,900 permanent jobs, generating a 1.9 billion economic output. This project will have a community impact. The building will feature a 11,000 square foot community space that will be programmed and operated by the Educational Alliance, a community-based nonprofit organization that has been serving downtown neighborhoods for more than 100 years. In closing, this project is crucial to the revitalization of downtown Manhattan. Development there is essential to moving the area forward, as the site was significantly impacted by the September 11 terrorist attacks. This project will increase New York City's housing stock as the city faces an unprecedented housing crisis. As such, ABNY supports the creation of 5 World Trade Center. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Tana Prado.
Good morning. My name is Tina Prado. I'm the Chief of Staff of the Downtown Alliance, and I'm here to read a statement. What was once an overwhelmingly commercial district, Lower Manhattan is now a vibrant use community. The neighborhood is home to over 63,000 residents and a diverse mix of over 1,000 restaurants and retailers. The rebuilding of the World Trade Center campus has been at the heart of that metamorphosis. Brookfield and Silverstein proposed development project for Site 5 would help complete the Trade Center redevelopment and contribute greatly to Lower Manhattan's long-term success and prosperity. The Alliance has long advocated for the development of Lower Manhattan into a mixed-use district. The residential and retail uses being proposed at Site 5 are consistent with the broader planning principles that have guided Lower Manhattan's two-decade-long recovery from the September 11th attacks. Bringing new residents into the area is more important now than ever before to provide a larger, consistent customer base for our local retailers and restaurants. Everyone acknowledges that far too little affordable housing has been built in Lower Manhattan. While well over 21,000 housing units have been built in the district since 2000, only 552 have been affordable. The current plan proposes an increase to 30%, meaning 360 of the 1,200 units would be permanently affordable for the families in Community Ward 1. That is 65% of the total number of units that have been built over a generation. Not only does this project provide that many units, it does so without public subsidy and with permanent affordability. While we welcome further discussions to investigate if further units can be produced at a sensible cost, it is clear to us that the plan is meritorious in its present state, and we urge your approval. It is worth noting that the cost of additional subsidies from public sources will come at an unusual high cost per unit. For the creation of an additional 5% of affordable units, it is estimated that upwards of $58 million public dollars would be needed. At a time where the volume of need throughout the city for affordable housing is huge and pressing, that is a stark sum. Lastly, by adding much-needed retail to Greenwich Street, the proposed Site 5 project would substantially improve the pedestrian environment in the area and would finally realize the goal of fully restoring Greenwich Street as an attractive and pedestrian-friendly corridor. On behalf of our Board of Directors, the Downtown Alliance encourages the Port Authority to approve this proposal within all applicable rules and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Ferriello?
Good morning. Oh, no, it's good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
board members. Thank you for having me. I am Victoria Fariello. I am a Democratic District Leader here in Lower Manhattan, which encompasses the World Trade Center. I'm also a member of the Coalition for 100% Affordable 5 World Trade Center. But before I begin, I want to note that it is my understanding that the vote today on 5 World Trade Center would be in violation of the Port Authority's bylaws. The bylaw section 5G, which reads in pertinent part, the Port Authority has an obligation to conduct its business and activities in the public interest and to solicit public participation and make its affairs known to the members of the general public. In accordance with this obligation, the Port Authority shall follow open meetings policy, which shall require that meetings of the Board of Commissioners and committees shall be open to the public, consistent with open meeting laws of the 2 states. The New York State Open Meeting Law, Section 103(2)E, which would apply here, specifically requires that resolutions be posted at least 24 hours prior to the meeting, during which the record will be discussed. Yesterday at 3 p.m., the resolution had not yet been posted to the website. I respectfully suggest that you postpone the vote on this item, lest it be found invalid. Now, to the merits of moving forward on this resolution, I would like to reiterate the call for 100% affordable housing. I'd like to note that the 5% increase of affordable units comes at the cost of raising the AMI. Respectfully, the question you need to ask yourself is if you want to be part of a legacy that builds 900 luxury units on public land where 2 firefighters perished in the midst of a housing crisis. Or are you willing to work with the community to build a truly affordable building that can house the very people who rebuilt Lower Manhattan? I urge you to do the right thing. I urge you to show your respect for 9/11 survivors and first responders and demand a plan for a building with far more than 30% affordable units. Ideally, 100%. Thank you.
Okay, Connor Allerton?
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm here speaking on behalf of Christopher Marte, Council Member for District 1 in Lower Manhattan. As Council Member, I represent the World Trade Center campus, as well as the diverse neighborhoods of Lower Manhattan, all in dire need of affordable housing. Members of these communities have come out in unanimous support for 100% affordability at the site, and I've stood with them since my first day in office. This current 30% proposal, 5% more affordable units than originally proposed at higher average incomes, is not more affordable and is not enough. This is a unique opportunity to demonstrate to New Yorkers that their livelihood and their basic needs are more important than cutting costs, and that affordable housing is not just a sweetener for luxury real estate deals. We should not shy away from investing public money into the public. That's what it's there for, and that is what we as public officials are tasked with doing. I want to reiterate on behalf of the district I represent my opposition to an approval of the plan as proposed today, and demand alongside my fellow elected officials that the Port Authority, LMDC, and ESD work with us to exhaust the numerous funding sources identified at the city and state levels that could make this project as affordable as possible for the New Yorkers who desperately need it. I believe that sources from the Battery Park City Joint Fund, the Port Authority, LMDC, HUD block grants and vouchers, and others have not been fully explored and could reach far more affordability on this site. It's true that this is an expensive project, but that's given in any high-value neighborhood. Concentrating public subsidies for affordable housing in only the cheapest neighborhoods to do so should not motivate your decision today. Again, this is a unique opportunity, and I urge you to pause this action until we can fully realize the potential of this site and provide the affordable housing New Yorkers need and deserve. Thank you.
Carlo Casa.
Good afternoon. Executive Director Rick Kine and Board of Commissioners for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Carlo Casa, the Director of Research and Policy at the New York Building Congress. I urge you to support the proposed action and facilitate the mixed-use development at 5 World Trade Center. 5 World Trade Center is an unprecedented opportunity to address the housing crisis facing New York City by delivering 1,200 apartment units, including 360 permanently affordable units, all with remarkable access to public transit. As a mixed-use development, this project will help create a vibrant 24/7 community, particularly with its emphasis on new public and community spaces. New York City is in a serious housing crisis, and without projects like 5WTC, the crisis will only grow. This project by itself would deliver 5 times the number of affordable homes produced across all of Lower Manhattan in a typical year, and with permanent affordability. We commend the development team and public sector agencies for working together to maximize the amount of affordable housing that could be provided at this site without public subsidy. 5 World Trade Center will also bring in over 10,000 construction jobs and generate $1.9 billion in economic activity. I urge the board to support the development at 5 World Trade Center, which will provide much needed affordable housing, public spaces, and economic growth. Thank you for your time.
Sarah PANYNJ. Sarah here? Jim, that's exhaust the list that I have. Anybody else?
That's all we have.
All right, and the ones that are submitted, they'll be attached to the record?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we'll proceed with the voting of items. Each of the respective committee chairs will provide a brief report prior to each of the matters being considered today. As chair of the Committee on Operations, I will now present one item under the committee's purview. The item authorizes agreements for the private development of a multi-use building on Tower 5 Suite at the World Trade Center, consistent with the terms outlined by our Chief Development Officer, Derek Utter, earlier today. Prior to making a motion, I ask the Corporate Secretary to notify us of any recusals by the commissioners.
There are no recusals.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Motion, please.
So move.
Second. Roll call, please.
Chairman O'Toole,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen,
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado,
Yes.
Okay, as the votes are in order, this item is approved. I'll now ask the Vice Chair, Jeff Linford, to provide his report on the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chair of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, I will now report on an item under the committee's purview. The item authorizes $41.5 million project to rehabilitate fire protection in 5 buildings at the Port Newark Marine Terminal and 1 building at the Port Jersey Port Authority Marine Terminal. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the corporate secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
May I have a second? Thank you. I now request the corporate secretary to call the roll for voting on the item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yeah.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yeah.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
As the votes are in order, this item is approved. I turn it back to our chairman, Chairman O'Toole.
Thank you very much. There being no further business, move to adjourn.
So moved.
In a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's over. Wishing everybody a safe and peaceful Memorial Day weekend. See you next month.
Thank you. Same to you.